Hey guys, this is Balu and today in this tutorial I will show how you can create your first visual effects video in Blender easily. So hope you guys will find the video useful, and without any further delay, let's start today's session. So here I'm using this footage which I got from Pexels. Download link in the description if you want to use the same. And also here we need to install some scripts in order to export tracking data from After Effects to Blender. So here I will leave a link in the description for these pages. So here this is for After Effects. You can say this is export composition data to JSON. So come to this page, click on this download raw file, it will be downloaded. Later come to this page, this is for Blender, click on this download option, it will be downloaded. And by the way, here I will be using this car model from Sketchfab. Thank you for this provider. Now let's see how we can install the scripts. Come to After Effects, go to this file option, scripts, click on this install script file and locate the file. So this is the file which we have downloaded, and let us select it. So once the script is installed, restart After Effects. Now come to Blender. Here I will show you how to install that add-on. So go to this edit, preferences, add-ons, and click on this install. Select the file. You can see this is import composition to Blender. Select it and install. So it will be installed in Blender also. So now let's move to After Effects. So here we got this footage, right? So you can see this got some camera movements and the perspective change. So in order to place 3D elements in this kind of footage, first we need to track the footage. Being selected of footage, go to this window, enable tracker, so that we get the tracker panel. So here it is not there, so let's come to this window and enable tracker. So now you can see we got this tracker panel, right? So being selected our footage, simply click on this track camera. So it starts to analyze our footage and gives us some tracking points when it is done. So here the tracking is done and we got some track points here. Let's increase the track point size. So here you can see we got the track points, right? So first of all, come to this advanced options and look for this average error value. So here the average error value is of 0.4 pixels, which is okay. Anything less than 1 pixels is fine. And by any chance, if this average error value is more, you can click on this detailed analysis option. It will track the footage once again and gives us a lot more track points, which may reduce the error value. So here this value is fine. So I will select bunch of track points here. So let's select these track points, hold left mouse click, and let's select these track points here. Now right click, create solid and camera. So this will create a track solid here. So come to the starting frame, press S and increase the scaling so that it is visible clearly. So now if I play this, you can see we got our tracking solid staying in its position and also following the camera movements. So if you want to rotate this one so as to match the perspective or the scene, you can do that. So press R and we can rotate it accordingly. So I think, yeah, this is fine. So now we need to export this tracking data from After Effects to Blender. So here we will be using scripts. So let's see how we can do that. So come to the starting frame, select this track solid and track camera, go to this file option, come to the scripts and select this export composition data. So here we need to select a location where to save the file. So here I will give a random number and simply click on this export option. So now the tracking data is exported into the JSON file. So now if you want, you can close this After Effects and open Blender. So here we are in Blender and now let's import the tracking data here. So go to this file option, import, select this After Effects composition data, go to the file location and select the file and import. So here you can see we got a camera and a track solid and also keyframes. So now if I play this, you can see there is a camera movement. So let's come to the starting frame here. So let's bring it close. So here you can see our tracking data is starting from 0 frame. So we need to move 1 frame backward. So press A to select all the keyframes, press G and move 1 frame backward. So in Blender the timeline starts from 1, whereas in After Effects timeline starts from 0. So for that reason we need to move these keyframes 1 frame backward. So now let's come to this ending frame, last frame, and let's adjust this to 219. So this is the time length. So here we got the camera. So if I press 0 on the keyboard to see through camera, here you can see we got our track solid in its position. So here we are missing the footage. So let's load the footage here. So select the camera, come to this data properties with the camera icon, enable this background images, drop down this one, add image, change this to movie clip, and from here load the footage. So open, so here we got the footage and open clip. Bring it down here. Let's increase the opacity to 0. So now if I play this, you can see we got our track solid and footage, and tracking is looking good. So now we need to place this tracking solid onto the grid here, because if we add any 3D elements, it will be easy for us if we place this tracking solid onto the grid. So let's do that. So for that, you can't select this camera and this tracking solid and move the scene. It will mess up the tracking data. So instead of doing like that, let's create an empty. So first select the camera, shift S, cursor to selected, so that the cursor comes to the camera. Now let's add an empty. So go to this add empty, select plane axis, press S and increase the scaling. Now we need to parent our camera to this axis. So select this camera axis here, not the camera. Don't select the camera, select this axis here, hold shift key, select this empty. Now control P, P for pen, and select this second option, which is keep transform. Now we need to parent this track solid to this empty. So select the track solid, hold shift key, select empty, control P, select this second option. So now we can control the whole scene with the empty, and our tracking data will not be messed up. So now press 7 for top view. Let's bring this data here, plane here. Let's rotate this one. So rotate, hold shift key to rotate it smoothly. So I think, yeah, this is fine. Press G, X, let's place it here, and now press G, Z and bring it just above to the grid. And I think we need to rotate in this X axis also. So press 1 for front view. So here this is looking slant, so let's rotate this here. So I think this is fine, and let's move it downward. So we need to make all these transforms using the empty. Don't touch this track solid or camera directly and do the changes. So use empty only. So press 3 and let's see side view. So this is looking okay, and here also this is looking fine. Nice. So if you want to reduce the scaling, we can do that. So let's select the empty, let's reduce the scaling a bit. So now this is again messed up. We need to place this onto the grid once again. So this is, press G and let's place this onto the grid, and also GX, let's place this here. Okay. So now if I play this, you can see our tracking data is not messed up, and our track solid is also placed onto this grid here. Nice. So let's come to the starting frame, select this track solid, let's edit this one now. So press tab key, change this to edge selection, select this edge and move it sideways here. Now select this edge here and place it like this, and also let's select this edge here and move it backward. Okay. So now we got the plane. So let's create a wall. So first of all, let's bring this cursor point onto this world origin. So shift S, cursor to world origin. So we got the cursor onto the world origin. Now go to this add mesh, select a cube here. Now press G, control key and move it upward. Let's place this here, press 0. Let's see through camera. Let's S, X and increase the scaling in X axis. So I think SX. So I think this much is fine. Let's place this here. Okay, so I think this is fine. Now let's increase the scaling in Z axis. Now press S, Z and increase the scale in Z axis. So this is going to be the wall, and let's place this just above to the plane. So G, Z. Yeah, I think this is fine. So press 0. So I think we got the wall ready. So now let's see how we can break this into small pieces. So before doing that, first we need to apply the scaling. So go to this object, apply scale, And also we need to add subdivisions in order to break this into small pieces. So press tab key for edit mode, or else you can change it from here. Press A to select all the vertices. Now Ctrl R and add loop cuts here. Use mouse wheel scroll key to add loop cuts, and again add loop cuts in this way. Ctrl R and add loop cuts. So yeah, I think this is fine. And let's add loop cuts here. So Ctrl R here. Okay, nice, fine. So once the loop cuts are added, let's add bevel. So go to this modifier options, add modifier, generate, add bevel, so that we get some smoothness around here. And let's make it to come to this shading and enable this harden normals and apply this bevel. Nice. So now before breaking this into small pieces, let's add texture onto this. So let's move this to shading viewport. First of all, let me save the project, Ctrl S. So here the file is saved. So here I will be using this Blender kit to get the textures, and by the way, Blender kit is free to download. So come to this material options and look for wall. So from here I think I will use this wall. Simply click on the image and the texture will be loaded onto this object. So here you can see we got that loaded. So now we need to unwrap this one. So press tab key for edit mode, press A to select all the vertices. Now press U for umbrella, and select this smart UV project and OK. So now we got this texture properly spread on all the faces. So let's come to the shading viewport and let's come to the scale options here, and let's make this X scale 2 and Y 2. So I think yeah, this is fine. Let's move to this layout once again, save the project. Now let's break this wall into small pieces. So for that we need to enable an add-on that comes with Blender itself. So go to this edit, preferences, come to this add-ons here and look for cell, CELL. Enable this cell fracture add-on, save those preferences and close this one. Now being selected the object, go to this object, quick effects, cell fracture. So here the source limit means number of pieces this is going to break. So I will place this here aside. So go to this edit, quick effects, cell fracture. So this source limit means the number of pieces this is going to break. If I change this to 50, this wall is going to break in 50 pieces. Add some noise and recursion also, let it be 1 so that we get small fragments. And material, change it to 1. So material 0 means, so if it is material 0, this material 0 means the outer texture which is applied on the wall. So if I change this to material 1 means, so after breaking this into small pieces we will get the inside portion, right? So for that portion this material 1 will be utilized. Okay, so now after that come to the scene selections. Let's add a collection like wall pieces so that all the pieces will be in this collection, and later hit OK. So here you can see the wall is broken into small pieces, and if I select all the objects and if I move this aside, here we will find one difference. So this is the actual wall and these are the pieces, but here you can see the difference, right? The texture which is looking good has gone worse after it is broken into pieces. So let's fix that first. So undo all these things. So I will do everything here. So in order to fix that issue, first of all we need to create a cube and we need to join that with this object. I don't know how this works, but it is working. So before do that, let's go to this annotation and press N on the keyboard, come to this tool option and placement, change it to surface. So here I will draw some lines like this. So here I want to have maximum pieces at the center. So for that reason I am drawing this annotation tool. So now let's add a cube here. So go to this add mesh, select a cube here. Let's increase the scaling. Let's place the cube here. So let's place the cube here. So first of all, let's join this cube. So select this object, hold shift key and select the cube. Now Ctrl J. So now as soon as I join these objects, this texture is shared with the cube, and you can see the cube, the texture which is on the cube is looking good, whereas the texture on this wall is messed up. So now let's fix that also. So Control Z, undo. So here if I select the wall and if I come to this data properties and UV maps, you can see the name is auto map. So select that, copy that name. Now select the cube and rename with this auto map name. Just rename that name. And now if I select this object and hold shift key, select the cube, Control J. So now you can see this texture is not messed up. So now let's break this wall into small pieces. So select this wall, go to this object, select this quick effects, cell fracture. So here we will be using this annotation pencil. Change this to annotation pencil, and source limit I will change this to 150, and noise 0.3 is fine, recursion 1 is fine, material 1 is fine, and seal connection, wall pieces, and hit OK. So now we got the pieces. So let's delete this annotation. So come to this view option, annotation, and hide it out. Now let's close this pieces collection and let's deal with the original one. So now we can delete this cube. So press tab key for edit mode, select this face, or else let's change this to wireframe and select this cube here. Select only this cube, press P and separate by selection. So now this is a separate object. So now select this cube and delete it. So now bring back our wall pieces, select these cube pieces and delete them. So in this way we can fix that texture issue. So I hope this will be useful for everyone. And now let's hide out this one. So I will rename this as original wall, and these are the wall pieces. So now let's hide out this original wall. Let's deal with the pieces here. So here select any of the piece here. So I will select this one, move on to this solid viewport, press N to close the bar. Now come to this physics properties, add rigid body and type let it be active, and shape let it be convex hull. So let's see this. So here you can see the object is falling down. So now we need to copy the property to rest of the pieces. So first of all let's select this plane, and so it is in empty. So let's rename this as ground floor and move it into a new collection. So press M, new collection, floor. Okay, so now the floor is in separate folder. So let's hide this out. So now select the piece where we have applied this rigid body, box select all the pieces here, go to this object, rigid body, copy from active. So now if I play this, all the pieces will be falling down. So here for some reason this keyframe is getting added. We need to delete the keyframe. So here you can see we got this keyframe, right? So we need to delete the keyframe. So being selected all the pieces, press A on this timeline to select the keyframe. Now delete. So now that keyframe will be deleted from all the pieces. Okay, so here all the pieces are falling down. So now let's bring back the floor, select the floor, apply rigid body, type let it be passive. So now if I play this, you can see all the pieces are interacting with the floor, and I think we need to increase the width of the floor. So press tab key for edit mode, select this edge, move this here, I'll select this edge and move it aside. So I think this is fine. So now let's see this once again. Yeah, so now you can see all the pieces are interacting with the floor. So here we don't want all the pieces to be falling down at the starting frame. We want these pieces to fall down after an object gets in contact with this wall. So let's do that now. So again let's hide out this floor, select any of the piece, scroll down, come to this dynamic options, enable this deactivation, expand this one and select this start deactivation. Now being selected this piece, select rest of the pieces here, go to this object, rigid body, copy from active. So now if I play this, all the pieces will be staying in its position, right? So now let's add a car model here. So here I will be using the car model which I have shown at the starting of this tutorial, right? So I will import that one. So go to this file, import, it is gltf file, so select this gltf car, select the file and import. So here you can see we got the car model. So let's increase the scaling. So here everything is connected to this empty, so press S and increase the scaling. So press 7 for top view and let's rotate this in this direction. Okay, and let's match this with the footage. So let's place this here, press 0. So I think we can increase the scaling still further, so I think this much will be fine. Yeah, I think this is fine. So now let's animate this car. So let's place this here, let's bring back the floor. So where is the floor? Select the floor here. So let's place the car model. Be on the first frame, come to this object properties. So here we are moving this car in y-axis, right? So lock this x-axis and y-axis, add a keyframe for this y-axis. So now move forward in timeline like 110, and let's bring our car model here like this and add a keyframe. So now if I play this, we'll have our car model passing through this wall. Okay, so now we need to make this car model interact with the wall. So let's do that. So we need to add rigid body property onto this car also in order to make this interact with the wall. So select the body, come to this physics property, add rigid body, type let it be active, and shape let it be convex hull. So if I play this, you can see the body is falling down because we have added keyframes for this, right, for animation. So for that reason we need to enable this animated option. So now if I play this, we will have this car interacting with this object. Okay, so now this is looking good. Now let's make this bit interesting. So let's hide out this floor once again, press 1 on the keyboard. So now let's select few pieces here. So first select any of the piece, so that will be the active one. Later hold shift key and select the pieces here like this. Okay, so in this way let's select few here. Yeah, I think this is fine. So here you can see this is the active piece, right? So whatever changes we make will be applied only to this piece. So here type I will change this to passive. So now the property, this passive property should be applied onto the pieces what we have selected. So again go to this object, rigid body, copy from active. So now if I select these pieces, so if I select this, you can see the type is set to passive. So now let's come back and bring back the floor here. So here if I play this, let's see through camera. So if I play this now, so now you can see this is looking bit interesting, nice. So now let's rotate the wheel. So here wheel should be separated. So here you can see this is separated, and also this wheel it is separated. So I think rim is separate and tire is separate. So let's join them. So select the rim, hold shift key, select the tire, Control J to join them, and we need to have the pivot point at the center. So go to this object, set origin to geometry. Okay, so for this we'll also set origin to geometry. Okay, so now let's add an empty and parent this wheel to an empty, and later we can use that empty to rotate. So shift S, let's bring our cursor here. So cursor to selected. Now go to this add, come to this empty and select this cube, press S and increase the scaling here. Now select the tire first, hold shift key and select the empty later. Now Control P and select this second option, which is keep transform. So now we can control the rotation using this empty. So if I rotate this, you can see the wheel is rotating. So in the same way, let's add another empty to this wheel. So select the wheel, shift S, cursor to selected, go to this add, empty, select cube, press S and increase the scaling. Select the wheel first, hold shift key, later select the empty, Control P and select the second option. So now beyond the first frame. So here if you want you can use drivers, but for this animation I will be using keyframes only. So beyond the first frame, select the empty here, come to this object properties, and here I think we need to rotate in x-axis, the two in positive x-axis. So make it 0, add a keyframe, select this empty also and add a keyframe for this x-axis. So first we need to parent these wheels to this car empty. So Alt H, so these are the car empty, right? So first select our empty, wheels empty, hold shift key and select the car empty. Now control P and keep transform. In the same way, select the empty, wheel empty, later car empty, control P and select keep transform. So come to 1/10 frame, you can see the wheels are moving, and select the empty here and let's give it a rotation like 450 and add a keyframe, and for this second also 450 and add a keyframe. So now if I play this, we will have the car rotation, wheels rotation, but it is way small. So let's change this to 900, add keyframe and select the empty, change this to 900 and add. So now if I play this, you can see we got the wheel rotation. Yeah, this is looking good. So now at the starting frame only we will be having these cracks visible, right? So we need to hide them first. So for that we will be using the original wall. So this is the original wall, right? If I enable this one, select this original wall, still the cracks are visible, right? So let's go to this modifier options, add modifier, generate, add this solidify modifier a bit. So let's increase the thickness outwards. So let it be minus. So here you can see if I hide this out, the cracks are not visible. So now we need to add keyframe for this render option. So let's see at which point these cracks will be visible. So at this point, right, at the 64th frame, right? So add a keyframe here for this render. So press I on the keyboard by placing cursor on this camera icon. A keyframe will be added. Now move one frame forward. Disable this camera icon by clicking on that and add a keyframe by pressing I. So till 64th frame, this original wall will be visible in render. After that, it will not be visible. So in this way, we can hide cracks of any object. Okay. So we got the cracks. Let's hide out this in viewport. So now let's bake this simulation. So select any of the space, come to this scene properties, rigid body world, catchy. So here simulation start and end, I will change this to 219 only because time length is of 219 frames, and later click on this bake option. So the bake is done. Let's save the project once again. So now we got our wall breaking animation here. Nice. So here these pieces are sliding, right? So we need to increase the friction of this plane. So here you can see these are sliding. So let's increase the friction. Before that, we need to delete the bake. Now select the plane, come to this physics property, and here come to the surface response and increase the friction value. So now if you want to add small fragments, we can do that. So let's add a plane here. So go to this add mesh, select a plane. So we got plane here, right? Let's bring it here, press S and increase the scaling. So let it be here. Now RX90. So we will be using this plane to get the particles. We will be using particle system here. So let's place this at the center at this portion, and let's hide out our wall pieces here. Let's deal with this plane only. So being selected this plane, come to this particle properties, click on this plus icon to add particles. So here you can see we are getting some particles emitting, right? So we need to have these particles emitting at the point of contact. So let's add those particles at 70th frame. So starting frame should be 70 and that should end at 90 frames. So let's make it 90, and lifetime I will make this bit longer than our time length. So let it be 220. Randomness, I will add this bit randomness. Okay. So now let's say this, and if I play this now, we will have the particles emitting at 70th frame. Nice. So now come to this velocity. Normal, I will change this to 4 so that we will have some velocity. And instead of having these particles here, you can see we are having these particles, right? Instead of these particles, I will add mesh. So if you want to increase the velocity bit, we can do. So I will change this to 6. And instead of these particles, let's add few meshes. So for that, so go to this add mesh. select the ecosphere. Let's bring ecosphere here. Let's place this here. Okay, so let's S, Z, and so here I will be using these three objects inside of that particle. So select three objects here. Now press M, add them to new collection. Let's rename this as particles. Hit OK. So let's place this above to the scene. So now select the plane here. Scroll down, come to the render settings. Render as, change it to collection. And in collection, select the particles. So now you can say we are getting those particles what we have added in the collection. And later enable rotation option and scaling. If you want to add, if you want to reduce or increase, you can do that. So I think this much is fine. Scale randomness also I will add this a bit, and yeah, I think that is fine. So now if I play this, you can see the particles are falling down. So now we need to make these particles interact with the floor. So select the floor, come to this physics property, add collision. So first increase the damping value here and also the friction value, and let's give bit of randomize here. And for this car also we need to add collision because these particles should interact with the car also. So select this car body, go to this physics property, add collision, and let's increase, let's the friction be 0, but damping I will increase this one. We don't want the damping option. Yeah, so now I think this is looking good. So if you want to still increase the particle count, you can do that. So let's increase this particle count to 3000, and also I will reduce the scaling. So I will reduce the scaling to 0.03. So let it be small, and randomize, let it be small. Let's save the project. So here we are using this plane as emitter, right? So in order to hide this out in renders, we need to disable this show emitter option. So now let's bake the simulation. So select any of this piece, come to the scene properties, scroll down and come to this catchy options. So come to this catchy options here and click on this bake option. So here the bake is done, and if I play this, we will have our rigid body wall destruction here. Yeah, so this is looking nice. So now let's move on to this render viewport. Let's save this once again. So now let's move on to this render viewport. So here the scene is looking dark because there is no light in the scene. So let's see this through camera. So press 0. Now come to this world properties, click on this yellow dot, change this to environment texture. So from here we will load HDRI. So open. So I will use this HDRI here, select it and open image. So now you can see we got some light in the scene. And come to this render settings, enable ambient occlusion, distance let it be 5, enable the screen space refractions also, and change this to transparent. Come to this film and change to transparent so that we get our footage visible. And by the way, here I will be using cycles render. So let's save this. So I'll change this to cycles, enable GPU compute also. So now select this ground plane here, come to this object properties, visibility, and make this as shadow catcher so that we get some shadows visible. And here you can say let's change to this material viewport, and here you can say the outside of this wall texture is looking good, but the inside texture is not looking good. That is because we haven't applied any material inside, right? So let's select these wall pieces here, select all the objects, come to this material properties. So let's select any one of the thing. So here only single material is there. So let's add another material, click on this plus icon. So this is material 1. So let's add new material, and base color I will make it bit, or else let's pick this color only. So let it be here like this. Now right click, select all the objects. This should be the active one, right? So make sure this object should be the active one. Later go to this options and copy material to selected. So now the inside material is changed. So now this is looking good. Now save this one, go to this render. So here the shadows are falling in that way, right? So if you want to rotate the shadows, we can do that. So go to the shading option, change this to world properties. Let's change this to render engine. Let's change the render engine to EV, and come to this film option and change this to transparent. Now let's rotate the world properties. So select this HDRA, Control T for node wrangler, and by the way, if you're not enable node wrangler, go to this edit, preferences, come to these options and look for node. Enable this node wrangler and save the preferences later. So select this node, press Ctrl plus 2 for node wrangler, and later we can rotate this one here. So let's change this to cycles, see-through camera. So as I rotate this HDRA, the shadows will be rotating here. So place this accordingly, which matches according to the scene. So let's come to this film option and enable this transparent. So now if I change this to 0, we will have this rotation here. You can see the shadows are falling in that way. So let's change this to -45. Yeah, now we can see we are getting the shadow in this direction. So let's change this to -50. So now, yeah, I think this is fine. Now let's move on to this layout once again. Okay, so now let me show you how to render this one. So come to this render options. So let it be cycles, use cycles for better result. So here for this render samples, I will change this to 32. 32 is enough for my system, and make sure this denoise option is enabled, and noise threshold I will change this to 0.1. So if your device can support large number, you can leave it to default, and light paths I will reduce this to 6 and transmission to 6. All these are to reduce the render time. So if you can spend much time and if your device is capable, you can leave it to default. So now come to this output properties. So resolution, let it be full HD, enable this render region, crop to render region, and frame rate we need to match this with the footage. So footage frame rate is of 29.97, so I will change this to 29.97. Starting frame and end 1 to 219 is fine. So now come to this output options. Here we need to select a location where we can save the files. So quickly I will select a location. So here I have selected a location to save the files. Now file format, let it be PNG, and make sure this RGBA is selected to get the alpha channel. And one thing I forgot to mention, so here, so let's change this to here. So for these fragments, we haven't applied any texture, right? So select this materials here. Let's change this material report. So for these materials, I will apply some random color. So come to this material properties and let's make this color, and for this also I will give it same color but bit of dark. I will make it bit dark. Okay, so now our fragments also will have the same color. So here you can see we got that color applied. So now, yeah, change this to cycles render, and we got the fragments also here. So now if you want to add any dust asset, you can add any dust asset to enhance the effect. So once this is done, go to this render and click on this render animation. So it starts to render in PNG sequence, and once the render is done, you can use any editing software for compositing this PNG sequence with footage. So in this way you can create your first visual effects video using rigid body physics in Blender easily. So hope you guys have learned something new from this tutorial. If you have learned anything new, please like, share and subscribe my channel to support me. So we'll meet in the next video. Until then, signing off. Take care. Bye.